What is going on, South by East, friends, fans, fam? Welcome back to the intersection where we talk about the culture, scripture, and everything in between. And today, we got us a culture conversation. Woo. Boy, you sent me this clip, and whoo, I feel like I know why you sent it, but I'm going to give you a second to speak for yourself before we check it out.
Yeah, man, there's so many tropes out here when it comes to being an African-American male. African-American male is dog with bad husbands,
Right.
bad absentee fathers.
Oh, yeah.
Menace to society.
While drinking the juice.
Yeah. There's so many, like, tropes, man. And so, in some ways, we have tried to swing the pendulum, man. Most of the guys I know and do life with are like totally present fathers,
Right.
try to do everything they can with their kids, try to be good husbands. Like, I'm just serious. And Howard, I just saw a whole event where it's like this stroller event in Dallas, I believe it was, where all these fathers came out with their kids. Like, it was just nothing but African-American males with their kids and babies learning about feeding and like how to get them breast milk at the right temperatures right. And everything else. Like this whole deal, you had to have a kid to be there,
man.
And I just seen it, and so sometimes you swing so hard. You want to be active, you want to be changing in the community, man. But when does it go too far? You know, that's the deal. Is one of the things we teach, and we teach a semicircle.
Yeah.
And we call it the rhythms of life. In our discipleship, we use them in different shapes to help in the discipleship process. In the semicircle is the rhythm of life. And we talked about you're supposed to start at abiding, and then go to pruning, and then go to growth, and then go to fruitfulness.
Yeah.
And then you're supposed to swing back kind of deal, right? Or abiding, growth, pruning, fruitfulness, then swing back. And the deal is if you peg out too long at fruitfulness, what you go into is burnout. And instead of going back to abiding, you go into escaping. And man, it's real. Mm-hmm. It's real. And one of the things is, you know that you're escaping when instead of just enjoying a TV show, you feel like you have to binge on Netflix because you're so burned out, right? And so it's going into that. And we say we're supposed to start from a place of rest because the first man started from a place of rest before he had a job. And so we model it after that. But as you get out here, and one of the things that we'll see is, one of my friends told me that the way that the world works, it always promotes you to your next level of incompetence. When you get good at a job, the world promotes you. And then you're not competent at that job, and so you stay there until you get competent, and then as soon as you get good at it, guess what they do? They promote you.
To the next pay.
And we've been taught in this goals-driven, this achievement-driven society and culture that you're successful as you get more responsibilities, as you take on more things. And so we think that we're doing good. And there is a piece to that, man. There is a piece to that. But man, I keep seeing, Brail, like this is what scares me. You know, we had this talk all the time, me and you offline.
Yep.
One of my goals is to finish well. I just saw a pastor, I think in the 60s or 70s, get fired from his church for having an inappropriate relationship with a woman. And I'm like, what are you doing in your 60s or 70s? Go sit your behind down.
Right.
And I'm like, fam, how did you get to that point and not finish well? And it scares me, bro, that as things continue to move in the work that we're doing, what we're going to encounter.
Yeah. And man, there's so much, a word that I hear in the social emotional learning circles a lot is mindfulness, like being mindful. And I try to be that, especially when I find, when you talked about escaping, if I come home at night and I don't feel like talking to my wife, I feel like jumping on the game. And I feel like I want to jump on the game more than I want to talk to my wife, I'm like, I've done too much. I've done too much. Because my wife is the person that I want to come to when I have trouble. And if I don't want to talk to my wife, it means I don't want to process what's been going on in my day.
Boy.
And it's like, sometimes it's like, well, I just need space. I just need this. I just need that. And I'm like, no, I want to escape. And that becomes kind of my litmus test. When I come home, when I think about not what I do, but what I desire. What I desire. Because I can spend time with my wife and not really be there. And when I think about what I desire, I'm like, okay, I've done too much. I've got to find somewhere to pull back. And then I got to look, and I'm like, okay, in my life, in my line of work, I was just telling my community group this on Sunday. I was like, you know, in my line of work, I can be doing a lot of good work for God and not be focused on Jesus. Mm-hmm. Where my heart is at. So in my line of work, it's easy to go, all the stuff I'm doing is good. I'm helping other people with their marriages. I'm doing these. We're putting together these resources, man. We're getting these accolades. We're getting these rewards. And then I have to think, though, but where am I doing the most good? For them 4 kids in my house.
Yep.
And for that woman that holds me up. And if I'm not doing good there, all the rest of that something else needs to go.
Bro, you've heard me speak before. Early on, I got a definition of rich. Do you remember what that definition of rich was?
Being able to sit down and eat at a table with your family.
Yeah, being able to sit down and eat at a table with my family was my definition of being rich. And I always wanted to be rich. Something that's important to me, having meals. I've defined this as a part of just our family characteristics. One of the ways I know that I put a lot of mind into meal planning and the ability for my family to have enough time where our rule is kind of like, man, we get like 2 nights out of a week where we might not have our normal dinner, but other than that, those other 5 at least, we want to sit down and have dinner together. And so we are really choosy about the evenings because of that. And that is so important to us. And I was just going, man. This summer picked up. We had some family things happen. We had some different things happening. And even like on Sundays, man, I was finding myself as I was trying to cover gaps. I was staying here after service till 5 or 6. And my daughter said, my son was like, hey, Daddy's working too much. He needs to come home. He's working too much. And my daughter started asking me every Sunday, are you going to be home to eat lunch with us? And I stopped. Woo. And I paused. I was like, this didn't come out of anywhere.
Why would you ask me that? Yeah.
Right? And I have set the standard for what quality time looks like in our family, what being rich is. So even when they haven't behaved the exact right way, when there have been arguments getting out of the house that morning, they still want to sit down for meals together as a family, because that is a family value, man. And so when I got that question like 2 weeks in a row, like, are you gonna come eat with us today? I was like, oh, because here's the deal. Where yours is video games, I know when I have ran too hard, when I don't want to eat what we have at home. When I want to just pick up something at the fast food spot and just kind of be able to just us not really take the time, whether it's prepping the meal together, setting up the table, the whole deal that we go through, clean up the table. I'm like, no, I just want something that they can eat that's the least messy and everything else. Because when I'm being rich, when I'm being wealthy, part of being wealthy is, okay, who's going to put out the napkins today? Who's going to put out the silverware today? Who's putting out the plates? And who's filling the water cups up today? Who's cleaning the table? Who's sweeping the floors? That's a part of being wealthy in my household. But when I am burnt out, I don't have space for any of that.
Yeah.
And so I want the least, I want the least of all those things and the least contact, just so I can just get everybody to eat. I can eat, and then I can just go. I can hit my melatonin as fast as possible and get in bed.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, I gotta watch this.
And it's so easy to slip in that clip, and we'll watch it at the end with Judge Mathis, where he's talking about his life. He says, man, it's been multiple years now that I've been on the road, always going, always had another thing, always had another place. And it is so easy to slip into these places where you forget how rich you are.
Yeah.
You know, I with my family, when I know I'm burning out, my patience wanes a lot. And you know me, I am a very patient person.
A lot more patient than me.
I am. It is true. I can't deny the truth. I am. And it's like, man, but with my kids, you know, with your family, that is always where you have the least, because you know they're going to love you regardless. And so it's like, I'm very patient with everyone. But if my patience runs out, it's going to run out at home first.
Yeah.
It's going to run out at home first. And I've got 4 and a 5-year-old that are 4 and 5. And I've got twins that are 14. And when I get burnt out, my twins are 14. They are not chomping at the bit to spend time with dad. But when I'm patient, when I'm rich, I'll go spend time with them. Because I know they don't need nothing just to be around me. They in bed watching videos on their phone. I sit in the bed with them and crack jokes. 30 minutes, 40 minutes changes the whole course of our week. When I'm not rich, it feels like a waste of time.
Yeah.
When I'm rich, man, my son, I got into a position at one point where I was whipping my son 2 times a day. I was giving my son at least 2 whoopings a day.
Spankings.
Yes,
Spankings.
I was giving my son at least 2 spankings.
I want to be.
Punch. I was not punching my son.
I want to be.
I was whooping my son with a belt 2 times a day on his butt, and I realized, I'm like, this is not effective, because as I was whooping my son, one night I got ready to give him a spanking, and I found myself amping up my voice. I never raised my voice with my kids. I just don't think it's necessary. I never raised my voice. I was amping up my voice with my son, and I just given him a spanking, and he was back to doing what I told him to do. Less than 5 minutes later, I'm like, what is wrong with you? And I'm amping up, and I'm starting to realize, I'm like, I'm not trying to discipline my son. I'm trying to scare him. I'm trying to scare my son into behaving the way that I want him to. And I think back to a sermon that you preached when I first heard you in the Define the Relationship series, where you talked about the difference between behavioral modification and heart change. And the discipline for children should be about heart change.
Yeah.
And the younger they are, the more you got to modify behaviors to keep them safe, but it should always lead to heart change. And I was like, what I'm doing is changing his heart, but I'm creating an unhealthy fear between me and my son. And that's not what I want to do. So the next night I came to our Making Sense of Your Worth class, and I asked the class, I was like, hey fam, I got to do something new. I need some help. And shifted the way I do it. And so now I have one-on-one conversations with my son. And when I'm pegged out, I feel myself going back to, but I could scare him. I could scare him into doing what I want him to do. And I'm like, but I know that's not what's healthy.
What happened when you don't have the stature to be boogeyman in their life anymore?
Mm-hmm. I know that's not healthy.
Yeah.
I know that ain't
like that's the deal, right? Like that's the deal.
Long term, right?
And so I look at this. We're gonna link to the clip in the notes.
Yep.
But like it's a clip of Judge Mathis, and he's saying like a reporter called him in the airport and said, "Man, we heard that you're getting divorced." And he's like, "Yep." And he's like, "Man, there's rumors about infidelity." He's like, "No, not at all." He's like, "Man, I was gone too much. And when I wasn't working, then I would escape by going on guys' trips or whatever else." And it all came to a head. And he even said, he's like, "Man, I said I was going to make a change, but here I am.
Here I am.
In the airport again. You caught me in the airport again, right?" Even with all this going on. And bro, it's not, experience is not the best teacher. It's the applied knowledge gained from experience,
Experience,
whether
yeah.
it's your own or someone else's. Knowledge is not power. It's applied knowledge is power. And it's one of those deals, man, where it's getting to a point of saying, not the behavior modification, but the heart change piece. Because here's, like, me and you both have had to counsel people who are on the verge of health issues or marital issues or whatever else. And the person will come up, like, they'll come up with a plan that everything the doctor wants to hear or everything their spouse who's really upset wants to hear. And me and you both will sit there and be like, this is over.
That ain't gonna do nothing.
Because we know, like, man, there's too many stuff in there, and there's nothing in your life that demonstrates you're gonna be able to hang with this
plan. Right.
And then for the other person, because you said you're gonna do all these different things, all these behavior modifications. As soon as you let up on one of them, they're gonna be like, see, I told you, nothing changed. And that's a hard spot to be in, man. And so we continually have to look for ways to transform our hearts. And ultimately, even on finishing well, and Judge Mathis is like, man, yeah, I'm out here, I'm trying to do well, I'm trying to do these things. And I continue to say, man, we got to be about in our communities where we applaud health. You know, that's, you know, we talk about this all the time, Brail, or I say, we're getting some hard spots where it's not easy decisions. I say, make the next healthy leadership decision. And we'll say, hey, we're going for healthiness. That means we might take a hit. We might go back. The numbers ain't going to look like they're supposed to look. We ain't going to come out with a financial win, but we're going to make the step for health because that's what we want to go towards ultimately. And it's hard always choosing health.
It is.
Fam, it's hard. It's hard always choosing health, man. And so that is something that just is just a reminder. Yes, I know a lot of us come from under-resourced households. But as you out here striving for that career, don't lose your family. Don't lose your kids. Don't lose your physical and emotional mental health.
Yes.
That is just so important, man. And so it was a good reminder. I hate that reminder came at the expense of another man's marriage. But if you watch the clip to the end, he said, I'm going to do everything I can to get her back. I ain't done. And, man, I love that even more of saying, I know I've messed up, but I see the value. And I'm like, and that is where the real value and worth is at, not in all these awards and stuff that people are going to give me. Man, I'm going to tell you, like, some of the stuff that Trisha's had to do for me when I'm sick or whatever else, bro, is just beyond fathom or thought or compare. Like, it's stuff that I was like, man, I don't, if it was my mama that needed that, I don't know, right? And this lady has done this, like, had to treat me in certain ways, and I'm like, man, when you have something like that,
got to cherish that.
You got to cherish that, man.
Don't lose it. Man, so where do y'all need to be present? What do you think about this conversation? Join us in the comment section on YouTube or on Facebook. Man, if you're on the podcast apps, make sure you like, you follow, you subscribe, all of those great things. And we'll continue having these conversations in the intersection.